Okay, girls, welcome to our question and answer. Okay, we have two players here from England. Okay, they have funky little accent like me. All right. So as you're all aware, I am Coach Sarah. I do run the girls program. It costs 24/7. Okay, and we're just trying to get as many females and role models for you girls as possible. Okay, so you've got something to aspire to in the game. So today we got Natalie Haigh, who plays for Aston Villa, okay, who are in the Women's Super League in England, and we also have Syme, who also plays in the same team, Aston Villa, and also plays for the England national team at under 21, so U21. So as I said, keep your cameras on for us so we can see those faces, them woken up faces. I will do some questions with Natalie and Emily. Okay, and then what I'll do is open it up for you girls to ask questions. So get thinking of any question that you'd like to ask. When you do want to ask a question, at the end, I'll throw it out to you. You can use the icon, the raise a hand icon, on the bottom corner of your screen. Okay, I think it's on the bottom right corner. If you just press in there, press the raise a hand, and then I will pick you in turn to answer the question. Okay, so they say leave your cameras on and keep muted at all times. Okay, so first of all, Natalie, Emily, just want to say a quick hello to everyone.
Yeah, hi girls.
Hiya.
Thanks for getting up this morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you, first of all, we'll just look at your childhood. We'll start with you, Emily. Okay, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a place called Somerset in the south of England, very far down in England, in the farmerland we call it, but that's where I grew up.
Nat?
Yeah, so we're almost at opposite ends of the country. So I grew up in Leeds, which I know is a city that's close to your heart as well, Coach Sarah. But yeah, I grew up in Leeds. My family are all still up there. Big Leeds fan. And then obviously we just met in the middle, down in the Midlands in Birmingham, where Villa is. So yeah.
Okay, so was it when you were growing up? Is it a professional soccer player that you wanted to be, or did you have other aspirations?
I think when I grew up playing football, the dream is always to be a professional footballer, but I was also keen on maths as well. So I also wanted to be a bit of an accountant when I grew up, which is a bit of a weird one.
Very, very different.
Yeah, very opposite. Yeah, I think the same really. I will just say that I'm a lot older than Em is, so I'm nearly twice her age. So essentially for me, when I was younger, playing professionally wasn't really a thing that you could do here in England, but it was certainly something that you could do over in America. So I know back then I actually ended up going to college in America because I wanted to pursue that dream in the United States, but unfortunately it didn't work out for me. And now here I am towards the end of my career, and I've just got my first professional contract. So it's really great to see how far the game's come in that sense. But yeah, 100% always wanted to be a professional footballer, either that or a spaceman or woman. But in a few years we'll hopefully be able to fly to the moon. But here I am as a professional footballer first and foremost. So yeah.
A spaceman, that's definitely different as well. You play soccer in space. So as you were growing up, did you have any certain role models that really pushed you to aspire to be a professional soccer player?
I think for me, in the female game, Jordan Nobbs, I don't know how many of you guys have heard of Jordan Nobbs, but she's a very good English player, midfielder. So when I was growing up, I always looked up to her, and I thought she really represented what I wanted to grow up to be, really.
Yeah, and I think for me, it sounds a bit cheesy, but my dad and my older brothers, were always role models to me. They were the ones that got me into the game. But I think in terms of players here in this country, I think you look at someone like Steph Houghton, who's achieved so many amazing things in her career, current England captain and obviously Manchester City captain as well. She's been around ever since I was playing, so just kind of followed her career really. But yeah, I think she's somebody that if you're a centre back, she's a really good communicator. She's a really good leader. She's a very, very good on the ball as well.
And alongside like soccer, when you were growing up, did you play any other sports that you feel like helped you get to where you wanted to be?
Personally, when I was growing up, I played every sport you can think of. Probably similar for you, was it?
Yeah.
Cricket, hockey. I don't think I ever did rugby, actually. I don't think I was ever quite built for rugby, but I did literally everything that I could growing up.
Yeah, I think I was the same. So netball, cricket, rounders, hockey. I actually did play rugby sevens and rugby 15s a couple of years ago. I changed sports for a couple of years and played in like a European Championship and stuff like that. So yeah, I think playing different sports just helps you physically, but also psychologically as well. Just being able to understand the game, and I think futsal as well was always a big passion of mine, which is I don't know if you guys play it over in the States, but it's like an indoor five-a-side with a heavier ball played on like a hard court.
Yep, we do, yeah. Big over here.
Yeah, and obviously it's massive in Europe for those like skillful players like Messi and Ronaldo and people like that grew up playing it. And I think there's just different things you can take from all of those sports into football. So it's definitely something that helped me a lot, especially because when I was younger, there weren't that many girls' soccer teams anyway. So I couldn't play soccer for a team. I had to play other sports.
Did you ever play on a men's team at all, like a boys team when you were younger?
Personally, I didn't, because it wasn't allowed when I was young. There were rules back then where you couldn't play. Even nowadays it's quite common for girls teams to play against boys teams. We weren't allowed to do that either. So naturally in the street with my brothers and their friends I used to play, but in terms of an organised game I didn't know.
I did a little bit, actually. I think in my generation I think I could play with boys, so I played with boys up until I was 12, and then also played in the college boys team, which I think was massive. I think you can definitely see the differences between the male and the female game in terms of their physicality. They're so quick, they're so strong, and it definitely made me a better player having played for a boys team.
Brilliant. So obviously it's called like amateur soccer over there, but over here it's competitive soccer. What age did you start on your first team?
Oh gosh. I trained with a team from the age of 9 to the age of 14, but we didn't play in a league because there weren't enough teams to play against. So I didn't play a competitive game of football in a league until I was 14, and that was or 13, sorry, and that was 7-a-side. And then that was my first year of playing competitive football, or soccer, sorry.
Yeah, I think
football's good. We go football, don't we, girls? We all know what football is.
Yeah, for me, I think I had the opportunity to play from a lot younger. Similar to Nat, there was not really girls' teams when I was growing up. So my first competitive games were probably when I was about 8 in a local boys team. But yeah, it was difficult to play in a girls' team at that age.
Did your parents attend those games when you did get to play, or do they still, obviously they can't at the current time, but do they still attend your games?
Yeah, so I have to say my dad's probably my biggest fan and my worst critic. So he actually, when I was younger, my dad was a referee, so there were times where he'd actually referee my fixtures, which was horrendous. Like, we didn't speak in the car on the way home some days. But yeah, no, my dad's always been there throughout my career. He's come to watch me play in America, in Denmark, different countries that I've played in. He's been at most of the big games that I've played in, and I know it's killing him at the moment that he can't come and watch. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you don't quite realise the value of your parents until you get a little bit older. For me, they always took me to every training session and watched every game, and I don't think you quite realise how big the commitment was from them until you get a little bit older. So I really do appreciate them now.
Definitely. I mean, obviously over here we're not playing at the minute, but we always have the parents at the game. Do you have any advice to those parents, the current competitive players that are either on this call or that will be obviously able to see this video.
Sorry, so was that advice to the parents?
Yeah, any advice for the parents of any current competitive players?
Hey, do you know what? I've not got kids of my own, so first and foremost, fair play to you guys, because I can barely look after myself. But yeah, I think just like Em said, you know, I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for my parents and my dad driving me, you know, up and down the country, and, you know, putting me through college in America and university in England, and buying me my football boots, you know, every year for Christmas and things like that. So just kind of, you know, stick with the kids. I think the most important thing is to make sure they enjoy it, and essentially that they're always learning. And I think just create an environment that allows them to challenge things, but also allows them to work hard and kind of respect the opportunities that they're given. I said my dad before was my worst critic and my biggest fan, and you know what, that's great, because he's honest with me. So if I've not had a good game, he'll talk it through with me, and he'll help me figure out where I can improve. And if I have had a good game, then I know he'll tell me, you know what, well done today. And I think that's equally as important. It's okay to be honest with your kids, but it's about finding a way to help them improve and to allow them to want to improve, I think.
Yeah, I agree wholly with Nat and everything she said, but I think also I remember sitting in the car with my mum and her driving up and me just like, don't speak to me, I just want to get there. And I think it's just sticking with it, because even if at sometimes kids don't always appreciate you the most, I know, as Nat said, that I wouldn't be here if they didn't give as much as they did for me.
And I think, yeah, just stay involved as well. Like, just get involved. Ask your kid, like, what their role is in the game today, or, you know, what their mate's role is, or how the team are set up to play. And it just really helps with their, I mean, I'm talking from a coaching perspective now, I guess, but it just really helps with their, you know, thought process and kind of reading of the game and how they see the game. And I think they'll appreciate that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what about advice for the girls that are on this call? You got any advice for those, or rather, obviously we're in COVID at the minute. We're not overly motivated like we want to be. It's hard because we can't play like contact soccer, but we're trying to stick with the process and do as much as we can. So do you have any advice for these girls?
Firstly, don't grunt at your parents when they're taking you to football. But also, secondly, I think in lockdown, I think this is where you can really take the time to develop what you want to develop. I think there's so much structure when you are playing and training, and the coaches allow you to play free, but they have an idea of what they want to get out of the session. And I think if you can be clear on what you want to improve, whether that's, I did a lot of running over lockdown. I felt for me that running was the area that I wanted to improve, but it might just be your left foot passing against the wall, or just your longer clips. So I think just making as much use out of this time that you can.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think lockdown has been difficult for everybody in different ways. So my first kind of piece of advice would be, find something that you enjoy and that allows you to take your mind off things that you maybe not so comfortable with. So if you are finding lockdown hard, I know for me, like Em said about her running, I've never really struggled with the fitness side, but I'm not as technically good as some of my teammates. So in lockdown, I spent a lot of time in the park on my own, headphones in, music on, with a ball at my feet, just doing kick-ups, working on my first touch, dribbling, turning. And, you know, not only did that help me improve, but I also really enjoyed it. It took me back to my childhood when I used to spend countless hours in the garden, just enjoying having the ball at my feet, and I'd be out there for hours until, you know, the sun went in and I'd get called in because it was bedtime. But I think lockdown's been hard for everyone, and I think it's about sticking together, using the football community. So not only to work on things that you want to work on, but stay in touch with your friends, stay in touch with your teammates, stay in touch with your parents and your family, because I know for me, I've spoken to my family a lot more in lockdown than maybe I would have done if we hadn't been in that situation. So just use the people around you, stay positive, and like Em said, just use it productively to work on things that you want to work on. I think that can be done practically, but also, I don't know if you guys get footage to your games, or if you're able to watch, you know, some of the WSL games from over here, or, you know, international fixtures that have happened over the last few weeks. But watch the game, learn from, you know, professional players, watch them take things that you go, oh yeah, I'm good at that, but actually I might want to improve that. because it's a really good opportunity, like Em said, to do things that you might not normally get the chance to do.
Yeah, the girls have been. I shared a link for the girls for the WSL and NWSL over here, so there's plenty of opportunity to watch the game. Okay, let's look a bit forward now, like into your college career. So obviously, Nat, you came to college. You did college in England and then also in America too. Who did you play for? What college did you attend?
Okay, so college is university, right? Just to
University in England.
Yeah, so when I finished with school here, I actually went to Cal State Bakersfield. So potentially near, I don't know, some of you guys in the call, I'm not sure, but
couple of hours away from you girls.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I studied at Cal State for a year. Was super excited. I really enjoyed, my time within the soccer program. I felt like it gave me an outlook on a different kind of culture. So we were very fit and we were very athletic. We trained hard. We had a good group of girls. I had some excellent teammates. And it kind of really added something to me and my life, but essentially it maybe wasn't quite the right fit for me. So after a year, I came back to England and I ended up studying at a university called Leeds Met. And I had 3 amazing years of football there. We won the university championships. We got to the final 3 years in a row. We won the futsal championships for the university nationally. And I had a call up to England University's like representative team as well. So yeah, I ended up playing in the World Junior Games over in China, which was an amazing experience. So I feel like in the end it was the right decision for me. So yeah, that was me.
What position did you play while you were there?
So when I was in America, I went over as a centre back, but I ended up playing as a right wing back and eventually as a forward as well. Don't ask me why or how, because I've never been a goal scorer, but somehow managed to end the season as top points scorer in the squad. So I think I ended up scoring 4 goals and I got 3 assists and a couple of shutouts when I was playing in defence. So effectively ended up winning, like finishing as top point scorer, which I've no idea how, but yeah.
Good job. What about so how did you get the interest of coming over to Bakersfield to do your first year?
Yeah, so like I said before, I think 10, 15 years ago in England, the dream was always to play in America because of the standard of soccer and the standard of player and the US women's national team being so emphatic in what they did. And at that time, England were miles behind the States in that regard. So, Bend It Like Beckham, I don't know if the kids on the call know that film, but has and will always be one of my favourite films. And it just kind of set the tone, really. Someone just kind of mentioned it one day and said, oh, you might be eligible for a scholarship in America. Why don't you try it? And at that point, all I ever wanted to do was play football. So I thought, you know what, why not? I signed up to an agency through the school that I was studying at. And luckily for me, when I was 16, I played in an FA Cup final, which over here in England is one of the biggest competitions that you can play in. So that game was all over the TV. It was really well publicised. And basically the footage that I had from that, I sent across to a number of universities in the States. And I think I had over 70 or 80 offers in the end from schools ranging from, Division 1 to Division 3, NCAA and NAIA schools and schools across, the entire country. So it was actually a really difficult decision in the end. I flew out to America on a couple of occasions to visit some schools. And then Nicole, who was the coach at Cal State, actually flew over to England to watch me play and stayed with my family. And then, I think that sealed the deal, really. She made a really big effort with me and my family, and I liked the uni when I went to visit, and that was it.
Great. Girls, man, so one day if you'll play in a different country, right? Would be nice. Okay, Emily, what about you? Are you still in college, university, or?
Yeah, so I'm at university, so college.
Yeah, college, yeah.
I'm in England, and I've always been in England. I'm at a uni called Loughborough University, which you probably won't have heard of. But I have ended up studying maths, just like my dream. So I've been able to do maths and football, and that's what I'm currently doing at the moment. I'm in my 2nd year at the moment.
You're going to be that accountant, right?
Yeah, football and accountant, that's the big dream.
What position do you play at college?
So I don't really play for the college team all that much. I did a bit last year. I train with them.
She's too good, that's why.
I'm too good. I played a few games. I play central midfield when I play for the college side. And I am still midfield, and I have always been a midfielder, really. I've not done as much moving as Nat.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so obviously you're both now playing in the Women's Super League in England. You just got newly promoted. So obviously great thing for you both being promoted to professional soccer players. So you currently play for Aston Villa. They were actually on the TV over here a couple of weeks ago when you played against Manchester City. What was that like, being on TV and knowing that you were on TV across the world?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, because I think when you're in the game and you're playing, it's not really any different. I think the difference is when you get home and you look on social media and suddenly, you know, your team or your face or, you know, clips of what happened in the game is all over social media and people from across the world are commenting on it. I think for me, like I said, when I was 16, I actually played in that FA Cup final, and that was live on telly. And at that point, I think there was 15,000 people in the stadium and 1 million people watched it on TV. And at that point, that was huge. Whereas we look now, like, what is it, 15 years down the line, showing my age, but it's massive now. It's gone global, and I think that's so important for women's football. You know, the growth of the game over in England has been massive over the last few years, and you know, we really are catching up with some of the big nations. And I think, you know, the WSL now is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. So yeah, it's always great to be on telly. It's nicer when you win on telly. But yeah, it's great exposure for us and for the club. So
yeah.
What's it like not having like fans in the stadium? I see, like, you're not allowed right now. How does that feel as players?
It is a bit weird. Last year when we were in the second division, we didn't get thousands of fans at games, but we were used to a bit of noise. There was an army, wasn't there? What were they called?
The Boldmere Army.
The Boldmere Army, and they used to bang their drums and sing songs for each of us. So it was a bit weird not having them at the game, I must say. But I think when you're playing, you try and just focus on the pitch and try and zone out from any other distractions, really.
So for you both, is this your first professional contract, or did you play for a different team, whether it was semi-pro or pro?
Yeah, it's an interesting question with the pair of us, because we've actually both played for Yeovil before Villa. Not at the same time, but I played for Yeovil when they were in what used to be the WSL2, so the Championship, for 2 seasons, and then they got promoted, and I played for them in the WSL then, but I wasn't professional. So we were playing in the league with Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, etc., who were all pro, and we weren't pro. So that was really tricky. And then after I left, joined Yeovil, and I think was on a pro contract.
Yeah, we were professional by the time you had to be professional if you wanted to be in the top league. So luckily, by the time I got to Yeovil, I actually did get a pro contract a couple of years ago.
So I'd done all the hard work getting over there, pro contract, and then Em came in.
Em sails in.
Yeah.
So what's your greatest achievement so far playing professional?
I think mine's just got to be getting this contract. I think I'm nearly 32 years old now, and a year ago, or just over a year ago, I was going to retire. I'd stopped playing football. I was concentrating on my career. I was looking to, you know, get into coaching full time. And for 6 months, I didn't play because I just kind of reached a point playing for my old team that I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I thought I wasn't good enough anymore to play at a good level. And I didn't really want to, you know, just keep dropping down the levels. So I kind of had drawn a line under my playing career. And then out of nowhere, I had a chat with a good friend, Stacey Miles, who Sarah, I know you know, and she kind of said to me, well, how do you know you're not good enough if you don't try? And I ended up trialing for Aston Villa, and I got signed a season ago, and obviously was part of the squad who got promoted last year, and I was only on a 1-year contract last year, so I thought, again, I thought I've helped them get promoted. That's me done. Like I'm not going to get offered a pro contract, and yet here I am as a professional football player, 16 years after I played in that FA Cup final with the same dream to be a full-time player. And to be honest, I can't believe it. I can't believe that's my life now, but I'm going to enjoy it for as long as I can, and yeah, we'll see. But
see, girls, you're never too old. Never give up. Okay, what about you?
It's so true. It's so true.
Never give up. What about you, Emily?
I think for me it was similar to Nat. It was the actual achievement of getting promoted. I played for Yeovil for a year, and we were in the top league, but I think we won maybe one game that whole season, drew a couple, and we got relegated. We didn't really get through in any cups, any competitions. So for me, that was a bit of like a false start to my career. So then I obviously joined Aston Villa at the same year Nat did. And yeah, last season was probably my most enjoyable season I've had playing. Obviously not as many years that I've been playing, but it's definitely been probably the highlight so far, getting promoted and winning consistently with a team. That's an amazing team.
Brilliant. Have you both ever had any setbacks in terms of injuries or anything during your professional career?
Yeah, so injuries is one. I think I've probably got one injury and then one other setback. But the injury, when I was at Yeovil the first time round, I had a really good season, my first season there, and then I was made captain. And then I had one more season, but right at the start of that season, I injured my back. And I played on throughout the season, but basically ended up having a scan and found out that I had stress fractures in my spine. And that I had like an underlying condition that basically meant that one of my discs had like slipped out of line. So then I didn't play, as I mentioned, the year Yeovil won the championship and got promoted to WSL 1. I didn't play, so I'd gone from captain to not even playing. So that was quite hard. But then I worked really hard in the gym and stuff to come back, and obviously got signed for the following season again, which was great. I think the other setback I would say for me was work. I've worked full time ever since I finished college, and tried to juggle that with playing semi-professional football. When I was playing at Yeovil, I was working in a school, so I was teaching all day, every day. And then I was driving a 4-hour round trip to get to training and back. Yeah, so and I wasn't really being paid to play either. So I think one of my biggest things that's maybe held me back from becoming pro earlier was just trying to chase, full-time work, earn a living, because obviously I've lived away from home since I was 18, so trying to afford rent, trying to afford food, trying to afford petrol, and yeah, just kind of the sacrifices that have had to have been made. But just going back to your other point, like never give up, because I think if you want something enough and you work hard enough for it, eventually it'll come. So even though they have been setbacks, I think they only make you stronger and help you go forward more. But, yeah.
Girls, by the way, petrol's gas, if you're wondering what petrol is.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, Emily, what about you? Any setbacks?
Yeah, my biggest setback was probably an injury. And it was at a point where I was trying to get into the under-19 squad, because we had a European championship that year. And I remember I had a year where I did a lower level year so that I could do education. And I remember one of the keeper just came out and just kneed me pretty much and just tore my MCL pretty badly. So for me, then I couldn't get into the qualifying rounds, the early rounds in that competition. And I think for me, I wasn't sure whether I should just stop playing football and just focus on my academic, because I felt like I couldn't do both. And then I got injured, and it does test your character quite a lot, I think, getting injured. But following Nat's advice, I didn't give up, and I did end up going to the finals with that under-19s England age group, which was an amazing experience. So I think
Yeah, go on, carry on.
it's just keeping going, even when it looks like it's not.
Okay, good. So let's stay on that England then for you, Emily. How old were you when you first got called up for the England national team?
So I think I was 14 when I first got called up. I'm in the under-15s age group. And at the time it was called an EPC, which was like a local
elite performance, right?
Elite performance camp, exactly.
Yeah.
And then from there you kind of got selected for one team. So there was 3 different points in the country. They're not really states, are they?
No, like regions.
Regions. That's the one.
Yeah.
And then from there I got selected to be in the actual under-15s age group, and then from there I've just worked my way through all the age groups, continuing to get selected, which has been absolutely brilliant.
And what current age group are you at? Is it under 21s, right?
Yes, under 21s. So I went through under 15s, under 17s, under 19s, and now I'm in the under 21s.
And do you have your sights set on the senior team? So
yeah,
that's
the big goal. I really hope so. I think I'm aiming for the next few years, maybe not this year or next, but it's definitely a goal for me. And I think it's keeping going even when it's not right in front of you. So I know that it's gonna maybe take a year or 2 years, it is difficult, I think, knowing that the goal you're trying to achieve is so far away. It's just focusing on the day-to-day stuff and doing the best you can, really, because it will pay off if you can continue to work hard.
Okay, so let's keep on that of like professional, like the players that play for like senior teams. So obviously we can see a lot of the US women national team players are all traveling over to play in the Women's Super League right now. We've got Mewis, Lavelle, Heath, Press, and recently Morgan. How excited are you to be able to play against these players?
Yeah, I think, again, it's an interesting question. 10 years ago, it would have been the other way around. 10 years ago, the best players in England were trying to get over to America to play because that was the best league in the world. So now to have the likes of, Kristen Press, Tobin Heath, Alex Morgan, etc., come into play in England is a phenomenal statement for the game in this country. As much as I know they're the players that you guys are interested in, there's also a lot of players that have come over from Europe as well. So we've got Danish internationals, we've got Swedish internationals, we've got German internationals. So it's a real eclectic mix of some phenomenal players and some phenomenal talent that are coming from overseas. But it's a difficult one for us, I guess, in the sense of we want that to be a long-term thing. So it would be nice to see the likes of Tobin Heath, Kristen Press, etc., stay in for 2, 3, 4 years. But we're all kind of aware that, once the NWSL season gets going again, they may only be here for a season and then they may leave us again. So it's an interesting one because I think there's players that are already in England that have worked hard for their contract and their shirts who will now kind of get left behind or, not play as many minutes because those players have come. But at the same time, what a phenomenal experience for them to be able to play in the same squad as World Cup winners. And I think it can only be a good thing for the game, especially in this country. And we've already seen how much the press has exploded, both in this country and across, over in America, in regards to them coming over and the publicity that it's brought with them. Now I just hope we see the quality on the pitch, and I'm sure we will from those individuals.
Which of those players you think will be your biggest challenge? Press, Morgan, Heath, Lavelle, or Mewis?
Sam Mewis played against us for City a couple of weeks ago. I think we managed to keep her relatively quiet. I'd say personally for me, out of the group, Rose Lavelle is a huge talent. She had signed for City at that point, but I don't think was eligible to play. Which we weren't complaining about. But I can't wait to see her, playing in the WSL and to see what she brings week in, week out. But I also think the duo that have signed for Man United will be a huge threat. And I think Man United this season will be very, very strong and will be up there challenging for the title, in my opinion.
What about you, Em?
Well, I'm surprised Nat didn't say Morgan as a centre half.
Right? She should be a tough one to play against.
Yeah, I think she'll be a bit of a handful. She seems like a natural goal scorer, which I think, you don't see her, and then suddenly the ball's in the back of the net. So I think, for me personally, that's definitely an aspect of my game that I want to improve. So I will be very interested to see kind of how Morgan operates and how she does get her success personally.
Hopefully we get to see you guys on TV playing against them. Fingers crossed. See how you handle them. Yeah, we won't judge you if they score against you. Okay, so both played, but Nat, I know you've been involved in coaching. Can you just explain some of your experience coaching the game and how you got into that?
Yeah, so I actually started coaching when I was still at school. I did my level 1 coaching badge when I was 16. And at that point, it was just kind of something that was offered to me, and I thought, I love football, so why not? After I completed it, I actually pursued coaching a team, and I had a really, really bad experience. So at that point, I then didn't coach again, probably for another 9 or 10 years. I just didn't interest me because of that bad experience. And it was only after meeting a few quite inspirational individuals that worked for the Football Association here in England, who encouraged me to do my level 2. And as soon as I'd done my level 2, I then took the next step, which was my UEFA B qualification. And then I've now just started my A license, which is the highest coaching badge you can get other than your professional license over here in England. So it's quite a difficult thing to get. I know there's not many females in this country that have got it. Sarah, obviously, know you're doing yours in America, so I know you're going through what I'm going through at the moment. But yeah, in regards to my experience, I spent the last 3 years actually running a girls' football academy at a school. So we call it college and then university here in England. So college for us is like 16 to 18 years old, and then university is 18 plus. So I was managing a women's football academy across both the college and the university. And that was a great experience. You know, I had some very talented young female players who have represented England, who are playing women's football currently and who are aspiring to play professionally. So we would be out on the grass, 2-3 times a week coaching, game day once a week, playing against other schools in our league and across the country in cup competitions. And yeah, I've also helped coach in the England Talent Pathway. So we have advanced coaching centres over here, which are for girls who are playing for a club but may have the potential to go and play for England, a bit like Em. So I was lucky enough to coach at the Gloucestershire one of those, so a regional centre, for 2 or 3 years as well, which gave me some really good insight into the level of player in the country and where my girls that I was coaching at the school should aspire to be. And then I guess finally one of my best experiences was coaching England colleges. So we have like a representative team of all the best players from colleges across the country or schools across the country, and we fly out to Rome every year for a tournament. So we went out and we played against some teams from Italy. We played against the Wales national team, and in the first year I was there, we actually won the tournament. So that was a really good experience as well. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to travel the world a little bit with playing and coaching. Met so many inspirational people and some good players, and I think that's probably where I'll end up once I stop playing.
Excellent. So last question, and then I'll open it up to the girls. What advice do you have for any females, current player who either wants to play at college, professional, or maybe become a coach one day?
Yeah, I think primarily it's just enjoy playing football. Have big dreams, but also make sure that you're loving playing, really. Because I think as soon as you stop enjoying it, you lose the motivation that you have to work hard. And I think if you're enjoying it and you set big dreams and work hard towards them, you can achieve anything you want.
Even if it takes you 20 years, like it took me.
Never too old.
I agree with them. I think you've already kind of said it, Sarah, where you said never give up. I think when you play a sport, naturally you come across some coaches that don't like you as a player. You come across coaches that love you as a player. You come across some great coaches that can improve you and want to improve you. So I think it's finding the right environment. And like Em said, you'll know it's the right environment because you're enjoying it, and you're getting better and you're learning. I think one of the things I also was never very good at, so would always advise young players on, is being resilient. So if you do get knocked back, go and find another opportunity, go and ask another question, go and try again. And also be inquisitive. So ask your coaches questions. If you don't understand something, ask. If you want to learn something, tell them. I think sometimes players get comfortable and they just get used to being told what to do, whereas I think a lot of learning comes from things you do away from that. So don't be afraid to have conversations with your coach. Challenge your coach as much as they challenge you. And yeah, like Em said, just enjoy it. That's got to be number one priority.
Okay, excellent. Okay, girls, does any of you have any questions? You can just put your hand up for me if you have any questions. I can see you all. Okay. Maggie, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself?
Well, my name is Maggie, and I wanted to know what your favorite soccer movie is.
Can you just say that again, sorry?
I want to know what your favorite soccer movie is.
Favorite soccer movie?
Move.
Oh, Move. Okay. Oh my goodness, that's a great question, Maggie. I mean, I'm probably the least skillful player you'll ever meet, but I have in my previous heyday been very good at a rainbow flick. So when I used to play futsal, I used to flick it over my head and over other people's head as I was running, and then normally I'd go on and score a goal. So that, I would say, that was my favourite one. I don't know if that's what you call it there, Sarah.
Yeah, rainbow flick, yep. About you, Em?
I think probably a classic step over for me. I think in terms of a trick that I think is quite effective, a step over, is that what it's called? Yeah. I think you can just do 7 or 8 of them, get the opponent to fall over and then go past them. I think that's probably the best trick I've got.
You think you're Ronaldo?
Yeah, I was going to say 7 or 8. She thinks she's Ronaldo over here. But Em is very good at step overs. So if you guys ever watch one of our games, watch out for Em's quick feet. She's very good at them.
We'll be watching for that one. Okay, we got Sailor up next. Sailor actually is a 2013 girl and actually plays up a year on my 2012 team, so U9. So very good little aspiring player, aren't you, Sailor? What's your question for the girls?
Wait, who is your favorite soccer player?
Your favorite soccer player?
Good question. Can it be a boy or a girl?
It could be he could be a boy or a girl.
Okay. So have you ever heard of Kevin De Bruyne?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I think having watched Manchester City in England for the last few years, I'm not a Man City fan, but Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best footballers I've ever seen. He just makes everything look so easy, but he does simple things, but he does them really, really well. So I think if you're an attacking player, whether you're a forward or a midfielder, I think watching his movement and his intelligence, I love watching him play.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne is a very good one. For me also, trying to think of my favourite. See, I think Messi is quite an obvious one. I think I can probably do a step over better than Messi. No, I'm joking.
You should challenge that one.
I think
got confidence.
Yeah, exactly. I think that he's not the most hardworking, but I think he is technically excellent, and I think for me that is something I do admire.
Okay, any more questions, girls? You just raise your hands. Eva, you have a question? Off you go.
When did you know, like, you wanted to make the commitment for soccer?
Did you hear that, Nat?
Not quite. I could hear it, but it was like slowed down a little bit.
Try again for me. I'll just type it in the question box at the bottom.
When did you know that you wanted to play like soccer professionally? Like when you really decided that you wanted to do that?
Oh, what age were you when you decided you really wanted to play soccer professionally?
I think I've always wanted to play. Like, it was always a dream. But like I said before, it was kind of like, is the dream actually possible? Whereas I think now, like, the dream is definitely possible. So all of you guys in this call, there's so many opportunities for you now to go and play professionally, whether that's in the States, whether that's in England, wherever that might be. And you know what, Eva, I think, like I said before, last year, I would never have thought that I would be a professional soccer player. And I think I managed to find a team that appreciated me, a team that respected me, a coach that believed in me. And that was when it became a reality, when I knew I was in the right environment, and I knew that I'd worked hard for my opportunity, and I was working with people that would be honest with me. So if I wasn't doing something good enough, I'd be told, but actually when I did do something well, it was appreciated. And I think when you find that environment and it just clicks, then you know it's right for you. So yeah, I've always wanted to do it. I never thought it'd be a reality until this year. But
yeah, I think for me, probably since I was very little, probably about 15, when I got in first in the England squad, that's when I really thought I could actually get into a professional team. So yeah, probably when I was 15, I actually thought it was actually going to happen.
Brilliant. Any more questions, girls? Raise your hand. Any of the older players? Julia, you have a question?
How many hours a week would you put aside for your own personal training?
That is a great question.
yeah, that is a very good question. Can I just ask a quick question to you, Julia? Do you mean now we're professional or before we were professional?
Before.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. That's a really good question. And I think there's so many different elements to soccer. Like, being on the ball is obviously the most important thing, but I think to make it at a professional level, you have to be fit, you have to be quick, you have to be strong. And I think that those players that are able to incorporate all of those things into their training are the ones that end up making it to the big time. So I know for me, I was working full time. So I was working like 9 till 4, 9 till 5 every day. I'd normally train twice a week with my team. So that would be like 4 hours of training and then game day once a week. But between that, I would be going to the gym in the morning. So maybe like 6 till 8 in the morning, whether that was weight training or fitness training. I probably didn't do as much training on the ball as I should have done as I got older. But when I was younger, especially after school, I would be out after I'd done my homework, obviously, every day in the garden. I used to have goals in my garden, and a wall. So it'd constantly just be on my own, doing keepy-ups, turns, dribbling, shooting. Anything I could do on my own, I would do. So to actually give it a number, I don't know. But I would say I've sacrificed a lot of hours on my own, whether that was in the gym or like out in the park with a football. And as I got older, I was lucky enough to have a speed coach as well. So I'd work one-to-one with the speed coach to work on my running technique and my acceleration. So yeah, whilst I can't give you a number, Julia, I would say it was a lot of hours. So it's quite nice now that I get to do that as my job.
Yeah, similar to that, I think you have to find motivation to do extra hours alongside the training that you get set. So I think for me, I always did a lot on the ball, probably more opposite to Nat, and did less in the gym and did less on the pitch. So it's finding a balance between playing football and doing some running and sprinting and stuff. Again, similar to that, I think it's hard to put a number on it, but probably your own directed stuff, maybe about 5 to 10 hours a week. Maybe 5 hours is a good starting point to see if you can just do an hour a day or maybe half an hour every day. That will definitely help you massively.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll take one more question. That's going to be from Morgan. Morgan's currently on my U8 team. Do you just want to unmute yourself, Morgan?
What do you like to do when you're not playing football?
Fantastic question. You've always got to think about that.
Yeah, that is a very good question, Morgan. And do you know why that's important? That is important because as much as I hate to believe it, there is more to life than soccer. But I guess for me, I actually watch a lot of football as well, which I know is probably not the answer I should say, but I do watch a lot of football, men's football, women's football. However, I also really like going on holiday, which is difficult at the moment because of COVID and lockdown.
Vacation.
Yeah, I love going on vacation. So yeah, I like to travel. I like to read. And I like to do, have you heard of Sudoku, like puzzles? Yeah, there's a few nods in the room. Yeah, so I like to do puzzles to train my brain and take it away from football.
Yeah, I think it's important to find something you enjoy doing. Obviously, football you should love, but I think some people like drawing, some people like reading, some people like going for a walk with the dog or spending time with family. I think it's important just to find whatever you find makes you feel more fulfilled, and that's the way to go.
Em does puzzles. She's not saying it because she's afraid, but she does puzzles.
I do jigsaws.
Yeah, that's good. Jigsaws are always good. Okay, anyone else before we say bye to the girls? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so big thank you to Natalie and Emily. That was excellent. And I'm going to look forward to sharing that with the rest of the girls in our program. I think it's very, very inspirational interview. So thank you very much. And I'll see you girls on the field, but if you want to just unmute and say a quick goodbye to Natalie and a big thank you, and big thank you to Emily as well, that would be great. So you can all unmute right now.
Yeah, and girls,
Bye, thank you.
before you guys go, I don't know,
Wait.
Sarah, I was going to say, so
girls.
did you share our Instagram handles on the page?
We did, yeah. So we'll share them. You can follow the girls on Instagram if you have Instagram. But I will send it out as well when I send this out, the interview out as well.
That's fine. I was just going to say, girls, like if any of you have ever got, like after this, if you've got more questions that you think of that we haven't answered in this, or moving forward, if you have questions or you just want information or you just want to drop us a message and find out how we're getting on, then don't be afraid to do that. So I know some of you are quite young and you've probably not got social media yet. But if you have got Twitter or you have got Instagram, feel free to follow us. And like I said, any questions that you've got, just drop us a DM and we'll try and get back to you as best as we can. And hopefully in the future we can touch base with you guys again and maybe find out how your season's going when you're able to play again. Because I know that'd be pretty cool from our end to find out how you guys are getting on as well.
Brilliant. That's excellent. Yeah, I'll definitely share everything with you girls. Okay, and then you can follow them and send them any messages if you've got any questions. So big thank you to Natalie and Emily. Okay, and girls, I will see you on the field.
Cheers, girls. See you later.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay.